to its core. Puffy Miss Reefer is all that I adore. Puff galore, I'm craving you more. Down to the road, I head back to the store to buy another baggie, smoking apple to its core. Puffy Miss Reefer is all that I adore. My God, tell me why my back feel light. It makes no sense, this shit ain't right. How am I supposed to blow the clouds in the sky? Another missed call from Sir Pablo. He's saying he's out of one row. He's fiending for some of my troll. I didn't listen, but I bet it sucks to be you, 'cause I've already hit the blunt, yeah. So now I'm out of it too. But call me back later after you stocked up on reefer. So in the meantime, I'm calling you Broccoli's keeper. Puff galore, I'm craving you more. Down to the road, I head back to the store to buy another baggie, smoking apple to its core. Puffy Miss Reefer is all that I adore. Puff galore, I'm craving you more. Down to the road, I head back to the store to buy another baggie, smoking apple to its core. Puffy Miss Reefer is all that I adore. Puff galore, I'm craving you more. Down to the road, I head back to the store to buy another baggie, smoking apple to its core. Puffy Miss Reefer is all that I adore.
Take on my mantle, got all that candle. I'll make it fatal thoughts, take it can't handle. Reasons I can't call, I got my hands full. Riding on that, taking what I can't care for. Sending the cure, only a future. By now I'm getting right, ready for a new one. Keep it together, bigger and better. It's only business, not pressure for forever. I guess you know, huh? But it's not over. But now you know what I feel when I'm sober. Such a mental, and nothing simple. I gotta, yeah, keep the things simple. I guess you know, huh? But it's not over. But now you know what I feel when I'm sober. Such a mental, and nothing simple. I gotta, yeah, keep the things simple. It's not over. Fuck it, that simple. It's not over. It's not over. Yeah, fuck it, that simple. Feel when you know what I feel. It's not over. Feel when you know what I feel. It's not over. You know what I feel. Feel when you know what I feel. It's not over. You know what I feel. It's not over. Fuck it, that simple. It's not over. It's not over. Fuck it, that simple. It's not over. It's not over. No disappointments. I break apart when I'm not gonna rush in. It's not a secret, I'm overheated. I'll mix the fact, can't be that serious. So take an course, act on the impulse. I got the right mind, keeping things simple. I guess you know, huh? But it's not over. You know what I feel when I'm sober. Not such a mental, and nothing simple. I guess you know, huh? But it's not over. Now you know what I feel when I'm sober. Such a mental, and nothing simple. I gotta, yeah, keep the things simple. It's not over. Fuck it, that simple. It's not over. It's not over. Yeah, fuck it, that simple. Feel when you know what I feel. It's not over. Feel when you know what I feel. It's not over. You know what I feel. Feel when you know what I feel. It's not over. You know what I feel. It's not over. That simple. It's not over.
Every time I feel it rushing, can't keep waiting for so long. Won't you give a little time to me? Flowing, rising up into nothing. Running, cover space so I can see. Seasons go so slow. Seasons go so slow. Seasons go so slow. Seasons go. Time moves so slow. I can feel it under my skin. Every time I feel it rushing, can't keep waiting for so long. I can't keep waiting for so long. Can't keep waiting for so long. I can't keep waiting. Seasons go so slow. Seasons go so slow. Seasons go so slow. Seasons go. Time moves so slow.
To whisper in your ear and tell you that I'm here and take you out to dance and maybe find romance. But you can't, so it's Mobtown life. I want to see the friends I miss, or give my mom a kiss, or get my hair cut right, or just sleep through the night. But you can't, so it's Mobtown life. Mobtown life, we'll drink with you forever. Mobtown life, in dark and stormy weather. Mobtown life, what else is there to do? Welcome to season 3 and a very happy floppy fish. But pandemic together. So put on your Wednesday best, at least the top, I guess. We'll take you to the moon. It's live to your bedroom. It's tonight. And it's Mobtown life.
Mobtown Live proudly supports the Teachers Union. Any honks you hear during this show are good honks. Well, yeah.
Welcome to Mobtown Live, everybody.
Hello. Nice to see you again.
My name is Sarah.
My name is Michael.
And we're back here at Mobtown Live, a show that happens every Wednesday. Michael, why don't you tell them about it?
Everyone, we host guests who are worthies in the community, whose voices should be heard by you and us. We also had musical guests who are awesome. This week we have Dr. Joanne Martin from the Great Blacks and Wax Museum, followed by Femi the Drifish, which is very exciting. Sarah is slightly broken in terms of her duties on the show because she's ill, but not with COVID, with some sort of other degenerative
Some kind
vocal
of
disease.
tonsil situation. So my talking is supposed to be less than usual, but we'll see. It's never stopped me before.
It's time for the cis men to come through for you.
So like Michael said, we have Dr. Joanne Martin and Femi the Drifish on this week. Next week, we have Delegate Brooke Learman and then jazz musician Taryn Newborn. And that'll be kind of our Valentine's Day show or anti-Valentine's Day show or whatever we want to do. So if you have any questions for Michael and our Sage and Sage segment, especially Valentine's themed, feel free to send them our way.
That is a great idea. I will be accepting all romantic questions, and nobody can answer romantic questions like a introverted man with a book room who now fears going out in public.
It's true.
Yeah.
So Michael, how does this money situation work?
Here's how it works. At the ballroom, we have always been committed to paying artists well. We are still committed to paying them, even though we aren't making any money at the ballroom. So we would appreciate it if you would pay a cover. You can Venmo us at Mobtown-Live, and $10 is suggested. But if you're feeling flush, go more. If you can't afford it, don't. Please watch and enjoy. We don't gain anything by you not seeing, but we use that money to pay the guests, and that's the right thing to do.
Totally. Do you have any other announcements, Michael?
Yeah,
I'll tell you what I did today.
Oh, please do.
So today I attended the Healing City Summit, which is the event that we talked about with Zeke last weekend. And it was super, super awesome. And there's still 4 more days in it, I believe. So if people want to do that, you can look it up, Healing City's Baltimore Summit. And it's like run entirely by young people. So the MCs, like the us of today, were these 2 like 18, 19-year-olds, young people. And they were incredible. They were like really on top of it. Like the transitions, the energy, the content. I was pretty blown away. I was like, they should come and host this show.
The children of the future, Sarah. They're the future.
Children of the future. Yeah, I'm telling you though, Michael, it's like, if I listed to you everything that was talked about today, you would throw up in your mouth. But if you had been there, you would have loved it.
That's more and more my experience with these kind of things as I get older, is that the aesthetic surrounding all of this shit makes me want to cry, but the actual content is the truth.
Yeah, so like the young people got, like, they came up with all the topics and the introductions, and the way that they framed the day was really interesting because they started with a panel discussion about how to engage with young people. So it was like this sort of sneaky way of making sure. What treats? Yeah. No, it was like this. It seemed like it was about life in general, but clearly it was a great way to frame how all these older people are going to be engaging with these younger people during this event, and how to not be like, in my day, blah, blah, blah. And so the whole thing is about healing, and they were talking about generational curses, which at first I was like, what? But yes. Then they're talking about like trauma that's passed on through the generations and being the one to sort of break that cycle and heal it.
That's actually, I think, a much more compelling way from my perspective to talk about it. Like, a generational curse makes sense to me. I mean, we don't have to believe in like magic or whatever, but when you start packaging it in sort of like, and I know that some of that language is designed to give it a patina of like medical authority, which it has. But I get a curse. I've lived that shit. I think everybody does. I haven't lived it quite the way that necessarily what they're talking about, but what a compelling way to talk about it. I like
that. It was really, really compelling. And to see young people basically being like, we need to take this on ourselves and do this, was like, it was genuinely inspiring. And I'm not one to describe things as inspiring when they're not. So yeah, so everyone else watching, if you want to check it out tomorrow or the next day, you totally should. They have this app too that allows you to create your own agenda based on like which workshops you want to take, and the whole thing is free. It's really really cool. Um,
Speaking of inspiring, that's a thing that's happening right now. We're all, at least I am, but I think most of us are so conditioned by the past 4 years to think of everything that crosses your plate as a piece of hideous evil, that these good things are popping up, and I'm like, oh, well, look at that, like how wonderful, or oh, some climate change legislation, that's nice, like it might not be enough, it might not be all that we wanted, but they're, it's nice
totally.
to be a little inspired once in a while.
Yeah, and it kind of the sort of hipster irony that reigned pre-Trump, I hope, is being destroyed by the fact that like at some point, there might be a storm and concrete everywhere, but if there's one little flower growing, at some point you got to acknowledge it. I feel like that's what we are doing right now, hopefully.
Yes.
Yes. So, with that, speaking of inspiring, why don't we announce our first guest? She is a very accomplished woman. So I'm going to dive in and just like list some things. So, dear everyone, we are very lucky to have Dr. Joanne Martin on the show today. And Dr. Martin is the founder and president of the National Great Blacks and Wax Museum. And if you have not been there, as soon as you can safely go there, you should go. It's the place where Michael and I bring all of our out-of-town friends, and the place that, I like to go to regularly. It covers 5,000 years of African American history, and it has more than 150 life-size and lifelike wax figures of Black people who have accomplished all sorts of things. And so what's amazing is that it's not what you get in history books. It's what should be in history books because it's prolific and vast and really amazing. I'm going to not list out all of the things about the museum because I'm going to let Dr. Martin tell us about it herself. But she herself is an accomplished author. She's toured around giving lectures. She does all sorts of amazing work. And she's going to tell us about the museum, and later we'll hear about their capital campaign and how you can support them. So, Dr. Martin, are you there?
Yes, I am.
Hello.
Hello.
Thank you so much for being here. I think you are sideways.
Nope.
Is it?
Sarah, she's not sideways on the actual
Never mind.
Zoom.
You're not
fine.
sideways. It's just for us.
Yeah,
oh yeah, you look great.
We're looking at you sideways.
Okay. But I wouldn't know what to do, so I'm glad I'm not sideways.
Yeah, no, it's great. Well, thank you so much for being here.
I wanted to say I'm a huge fan of the Great Blacks and Wax Museum. I've brought people there multiple times, and it's always an experience where people go, a Great Blacks and Wax Museum, really? And then afterwards they're like, yes, that is the truth.
Thank you so much. That means a lot because it's not just the place where I work. It's it is my life. So much of who I am and what my relationship with my late husband Elmer was and what we were trying to do. So when I hear words of appreciation, that just means a lot.
Wonderful. Can you give us for people who haven't been there, who haven't necessarily heard of it, can you give us a quick walkthrough of what the museum is?
Well, we tell over 5,000 years of history. It's a museum that uses the wax medium as a way of putting a face on a history that for many of us has been faceless. And it is a museum that attempts to make the history come alive and I guess that's a dangerous thing to say given the perception about wax figures, but it is a history that has been remote and distorted and denied and neglected, and so there's no glass separating our visitors from our wax figures, and that's sometimes a dangerous thing too, because people they're intrigued by the wax medium and they want to scratch and see what's underneath. And there are some people who believe that someone gave us Frederick Douglass and we poured wax over him, and so you have this this range of perceptions about what wax figures are. But the idea that I grew up at a time when we had Negro History Week, and when you had after Negro History Week, then you went back to um, the real history that the white men of the school board said that you would learn, um, and therefore to be able to fill in the gaps. And I know that that's what you're saying too, for when you come to the museum and some of the people that you bring, for all of us, it is a filling in of the gaps. And there's still so much to tell, so much that we are not able to tell, given the space and the finances and any number of things, the appreciation, sometimes just the idea that there's just so much. But we do as much, I feel, as anyone, because we don't allow ourselves to not take a risk. And telling the story of the slave ship and the slave ship experience, particularly telling the story of lynching, is something that museums don't want to do. My husband, Elmer, said, and he was our visionary, and continues to be, but he said that he wanted us to have a slave ship where people didn't just look into it, as our original exhibit was, but that you became a participant, not an observer of that slave ship experience, and that it was experience in which you go down into the slave ship. So that whole feeling of going down and feeling surrounded by the experience, the sounds and so forth. He wanted the lynching exhibit to be a permanent exhibit. He said that many museums will do a temporary exhibit on lynching, make it so filled with abstractions that you have no sense of the horror and brutality of it. And then after a month or so of this special temporary exhibit, then they take it down and walk away and pat themselves on the back. But that if you're going to talk about the struggle of a people, if you're going to talk about what a nation needs to do to allow people to embrace truth and to heal, and all of whatever goes into what it is we have to do as a nation to be better and as a world to be better, then that means you don't run away from the story. And if you try to run away from them, then you do an injustice to the people who had to make those kinds of sacrifices.
Yeah. I the basement of your museum, which is where the primary lynching exhibit is. The first time I saw it was about 12 years ago, and it's stuck with me ever since then. And I think the thing about it, one of the many things that I found so moving, was that oftentimes when you do see something like that depicted, it's either in the way that you were describing, where it's like almost a euphemism, like they don't actually directly address it, or it's so emotionally exploitative because it's in under the guise of entertainment, which I think also is the wrong way to engage with that. And so I really like, I mean, how did you decide how matter of fact to be without pushing further into the sort of traumatizing the visitor?
Well, we give people the option of going into the lynching exhibit or not. We have a parental advisory, and we make it clear that it's graphic and it's lynching. It's not frontier justice, as the cowboy movies with the westerns would like you to believe, and therefore you go in, at least that we have attempted to reveal for you before even going in that this is an exhibit about lynching. And whatever decision you make after that, it is your responsibility as far as we're concerned. We're not going to make the decision that if lynching makes you uncomfortable, we should not tell the story of lynching.
Right.
And that's what many museums do, that it's about your comfort level. And wax museums, they show you horror, but they call themselves a horror museum, and that becomes their banner.
Mm-hmm.
You have the Celebrity Museum, you have the Hall of Fame wax museums, and you have the horror museums, and those museums are designed to. The horror museums that are designed to scare you, but have you just giddy with fright. That's not a choice that we chose to make about lynching. We're not attempting to scare you about lynching, but we are attempting to show the depths of which human beings can go for whatever reason. Because the only way that we can be at our best is to understand what our worst can be. Um, and if you're going to get better, then you're going to have to see something in yourself that you want to make better. And so for me, the idea that you could make someone a slave, the idea that you could lynch someone, the idea that you could try to strip away someone's humanity in the way that you define them or stereotype them,
Mm-hmm.
um, is something that we as human beings need to work on. And so for me, it is a museum that is about showing what we can be if we try. I talk about my father and the fact that my father grew up in the segregated South at a time when there were few opportunities for Black men of his generation. He, like most Black men, worked. I'm from Florida. He worked in the paper mills, but he wanted to be a mechanical engineer. The Florida that he grew up in was not going to allow him to get that opportunity. So he went to the United States Navy, the Navy of the United States of America, because he thought that it was there that he would get that opportunity. The United States Navy made him a cook. It made Black men of his generation servants. They had to be servants of sometimes of young white men their age and rank. That was the job. You swab the decks or whatever. And that was the role that Black men played. But when my father came back to Florida, my father went to the poll every election. He understood that he might have to be voting for the lesser of two or three evils, but that voting was his right and voting was his duty.
Hmm.
And so for my father, it was the promise of America, the ideal of America, the hope of America, the potential of America that sent him to the polls. And so for me, that is what a part of the statement that I want people to walk away from, that despite what the other side of America has been, there is still that potential for America, as Langston Hughes said, to be America again.
You spoke briefly about your husband, your late husband, I believe, who founded the museum with you. Uh, can you go into a little bit of the history of the museum and his role in it, and your role together, and how this
Right.
all sort of came to be?
And I can't tell the story without putting Elmer first, because, as I said, he was our visionary, and without him, there would not have been a Great Blacks in Wax Museum. Um, Elmer said, conventional wisdom all over this nation is that you hide your poverty areas. And once you succeed in hiding them, then you can succeed in neglecting them. But that we were going to create a museum that people from all over the world were going to come to, and that we could show that tourism can thrive in a setting like ours in a fragile community, and that community development and cultural development go hand in hand. Elmer was very much a product of his time, of the Black consciousness, Black power, civil rights era. the big afro, the dashiki, all of the trappings of that time. Um, but he brought that sense of history and ancestry and all of that to this project. We took his grandmother to a wax museum, Potter's Wax Museum in Florida, because she was visiting with us. And you have visitors, and you want to you bring your visitors to Great Blacks and
Yeah.
Wax, because you need to get them out of the house and find something interesting for them to do. Elmer and I loved the Wax Museum, and I had gone as a child, but Elmer had never been to a wax museum. His grandmother was just get me out of here as soon as possible. But we didn't know that was the making of an idea. Then we went to France and Spain, and saw just what it must be like to have a sense of your place in history, and that as a people, that was one of the things that we were denied. And so Elmer, that was for him in his Black consciousness, Black power way of looking at things. That was a part of the beginning of an idea that he didn't realize and I didn't realize. When we went to Spain in particular and saw all of these monuments to Franco, and what the messages that you could send even from a dictator, authoritarian, that how powerful those messages can be, and so he wanted us to do something to be able to give Black people the what he felt we had been denied in terms of our sense of place and history. And it went back to having gone to Potter's Wax Museum. Elmer spent all day at the Library of Congress trying to find out whether there were any wax museums. And when he came away saying that there's no Black History Wax Museum, I couldn't find any mention of one. And then trying to find out, well, is there a wax figure supermarket someplace? How do you get wax figures? So that was the kind of research that led us to this. We took some money that we were uh, we didn't know where or how we would even start the whole idea of getting wax figures. We called around. We called a wax museum in California, and the person, at first we found that people didn't want to give you any information. But the person that we talked to, someone, I guess we sounded so desperate and pitiful that she gave us, she said, well, you have a wax museum, wax figure maker right on the East Coast. In fact, he's in your city.
Huh.
And it was Rob Dorfman of Dorfman Museum Figures. He's still, to my knowledge, he's still in business. And Elmer went to meet with Rob, and he told him what we were trying to do. And Rob said, well, I build museums all over the nation. Why don't you let me build it, let me run it, let me own it? I mean, let me build it and own it, and you and your wife run it for me. And Elmer said, well, you have our idea, you have all of the resources. If you took our idea, there's nothing we could do about it.
Mm-hmm.
But even though you could build this museum, I don't think that you would have the passion for our history that we have. And Rob said, you're right. And he backed away. And then he set up for us what would be a layaway plan for the wax figures that we needed to get started. We started with 4 wax figures, all of them Rob Dorfman wax figures. And we get paid. My job at Carpet and Elmer's job at Morgan, and we'd go. Elmer would take some money to Rob, and he said, well, Rob, I guess today we bought an eyeball or toe or whatever with our layaway plan. But could not have done this if Rob had not backed away, and if he had not decided that he wanted to help these 2 fledglings who had no idea what they were doing or what they were getting into. So just a number of ways that people stepped in to help us to do this, and I will be eternally grateful to Rob Dorfman.
What were the first 4 wax figures, just out of curiosity?
Yeah, Mary McLeod Bethune and Frederick Douglass, and Nat Turner and John Brown.
John Brown got in there.
Yeah, oh yeah. Elmer wanted um he wanted it to be four figures that even though there was a militancy in all of them in one way or another, even someone is a gentle soul like Mary McLeod Bethune. They used to say don't mess with Mary. So but he wanted them to be people who fought for something but in their own way. Frederick Douglass, even though he and John Brown had any number of private conversations, Frederick Douglass was very aware of what John Brown was about to embark on, and he kept those kinds of secrets, but they were two different individuals.
Mm-hmm.
Mary McLeod Bethune and Frederick Douglass wanted some of the same things, but two very different individuals who went about their cause in a different way. And of course, Nat Turner, Elmer said that history can be divided into two periods, BNT and ANT, before Nat Turner and after Nat Turner. Because before Nat Turner, we were supposed to be the happy darkies, just toe tapping our way through the cotton fields. That was the image, the TV and movie image of us as a people, and we were so supposed to be so happy and content, and slavery was such a wonderful thing. Um, After Nat Turner, the notion that maybe those people aren't as happy as we thought, and it meant that there were any number of just restrictions that were placed in light of what Nat Turner was willing to do, and John Brown in his way as well. Um, but we wanted figures that spoke to different aspects of the struggle for freedom and rights and so forth.
And you toured around with them, right?
Yes. Put them in the you're so the two of you so young, so I want to use the term hatchback, but you won't. It's like a station wagon.
Mm-hmm.
I had a
So-
hatchback. I might be
Oh.
young, but my cars aren't.
Okay, good. Great. I love sporty cars. I have a Trans Am. But at any rate, we put them in the hatchback of my Pontiac, and we drive them around and set them up in schools. One of our major first exhibits was at Mondawmin Mall for the Martin Luther King holiday, before it even became an official federal holiday. And we had figures at Coppin and Morgan, and Lexington Market was just wonderful. And for us, we have a wonderful history with Lexington Market and our wax figures. And then after the exhibit, we put them back in my Pontiac and take them home to our 2-bedroom apartment. And so if you'd come in the guest bedroom and looked in the guest bedroom of our 2-bedroom apartment, you would have found Mary McLeod Bethune's head on the dresser, and parts of Frederick Douglass and Nat Turner. And I don't know whether Mary McLeod Bethune would have enjoyed sharing a room with Nat Turner and Booker T and those guys. But anyway, that was a part of the experience as well.
So the museum now spans, if I can remember correctly, I think that is the earliest figure. Is it Hannibal on that elephant?
Hannibal on the elephant.
Yeah, that blows my mind. I love that. All the way to Obama, or is there anyone more recent?
President Obama is the most recent one.
So we're talking thousands of years of history.
Yes, absolutely. And we wanted that. We wanted it, as I said, with the first four, to be people who look differently at what history was, what they were fighting for. Many people are discovering, because of Kamala Harris, many people are discovering Fannie Lou Hamer.
Mm.
And I've had any number of people who said that they, now the Kamala Harris talks about Fannie Lou Hamer and Ida B. Wells and Shirley Chisholm as three people who paved the way for her. I can remember when I when I would talk about Hillary Clinton, I connect her to Shirley Chisholm, and Hillary Clinton has talked about Shirley Chisholm as well, and the role that she played in just who she is. And so that is one of the things that the museum does. It does help kids to make a kind of connection that they might not, or people, because as I said, all of a sudden people are talking about Fannie Lou Hamer now, and I want them to go beyond the sick and tired of being sick and tired. I mean, that's what she said, and within that moment, it had a lot of meaning. But if that's all you know about her, then you have just helped to take away her impact and purpose and so forth. So it's trying to show that other side show that deeper side of history as well, but to take advantage of the fact that since they're talking about Kamala Harris, now they're talking about Fannie Lou Hamer.
I I was thinking, I think something that is so striking, and I think that this might have been a quote from you in an interview I was listening to, talking about, I believe you were talking about how, what happens when we fail to institutionalize our history, and every generation having to start from scratch. And I think one of the amazing things about stepping foot into your museum is that it's kind of like a weight lifted off. I mean, obviously, I'm not a Black person, but even for me, it's like this, oh, this history is all right here. Just because I didn't have it taught to me the correct way in elementary and middle and high school doesn't mean that it doesn't exist. Do you see that as part of your legacy, and what do you hope to see that become down the line?
I like just when the two of you started talking, for me, the idea that you've come into our museum and realized that this is a history that you didn't know some of it, but that you want to know, and that's what I want. No matter what color you are or age you are, that you could come into the museum and realize that I need to know this, and I don't mind knowing this, because that's often the case. I had a group from Baltimore County who came in. There were two white students in the group, two young white men, and I was doing the tour, and it was clear that they wanted none of what I was saying. They didn't want to be bothered. They didn't want to be there. And so finally, one of them said, "Why do we have to know this?" And the students in their class, and and why, they were looking for how I was going to react
Yeah, like
to
kids
that.
do.
Yeah. And I said, "I'm glad you asked me that question. I'm glad you had the courage." I said, "It took courage for you to ask me that question, and I know that. I know that just the reaction of your classmates and peers means that you knew that you might get a reaction, and you certainly didn't know what kind of reaction you were going to get from me, whether I was going to try and embarrass you or whatever." And I can say I'm genuinely glad that you asked that question, because it gives me a chance for you and me to talk about that. I said, when I look around your group, I see white students, I see African American students, I see Asian students, I see some Latinx students, but whatever your ethnicity or place of origin or ancestry, you're the ones who are going to run this world. You're the ones who are going to make the laws, raise the children, teach teach in the schools, whatever. Be the minister or a fireman or firefighter or whatever. That's what you're going to be. And if we have any chance of your being helping this world to be better because you're a good firefighter or a good mother or a good minister or whatever, it means that you have to have a respect for all of the stories, all of the narratives, all of the people who make this nation what it is. whose blood and stories and history and input is what this country is. If you don't do that, you don't have a chance of being the best parent you could be, or the best teacher, or the best firefighter, or whatever. And today you get to learn about the story of people of African descent. That's why you need to be here. That's why I'm glad you're here. That's why I'm glad you asked that question.
Wow.
So that's a lovely answer. And if I think I was that kind of young man, and I would have gone, huh.
You look like you probably were. When I first said yes, you were that kind of man, young man. Yes, I believe that.
So, hopefully we grow and change. Hopefully. It. Sarah was telling me that there are some potential serious plans for the future for the museum that involve expanding and also potentially opportunities for people to support. Can you talk about both of those things?
Yes, we. One of the things that Elmer and I wanted, we started purchasing the buildings along the 1600 block. We deliberately moved into that community. Going back to Elmer's idea that hide in your poverty areas. And because I would like for African American children to understand that they don't have to leave their communities to find something worthwhile.
Mm-hmm.
And that becomes programs are, they get recruited into programs that are someplace else, and then they have to go back to and not have to, but they go back to their communities. But being in the heart of the African American community, showing that tourism can thrive. We thought that by now we would have made the point to the leaders of this city that when they saw the buses parked pre-COVID, but along North Avenue, both sides of North Avenue when we moved there in 1988, up and down the block, museum teeming with people. We thought that would send a message that people will leave the Baltimore Inner Harbor and come to a museum on the corner of North Avenue and Bond Street, because there's something worthwhile to see, and then you can branch out from there and create businesses. We get asked all the time most of our visitors come from out of state, and when the question that they ask either before or during or after their visit is, after Great Blacks in Wax, what else is there to see? Our busiest month before COVID was July, not February. Spring break, because our visitors come during spring break from as far away as Florida and for some reason every year Wisconsin. I'm not sure why. I'm glad, but Wisconsin, LA, and so forth. Many of them going on the college tour and bringing middle schoolers because they want them to get a sense of college and so forth. And so we've shown that we want the museum to be able to be what Elmer called the cultural hub, a multi-block mecca where people can come and you can have businesses there in the 1500 block. Elmer envisioned that as the Uhuru, which is Swahili for let us come together, the Uhuru Village Place. The 1700 block was going to be the arts and entertainment complex, and there would be a visitor center on Asquith Street and so forth. That was and I'm trying to accomplish as much of that as I can while I can, and but that was the dream and the hope, and much of it still is.
That's amazing. I got chills just imagining that. What a really cool vision. So the people watching, is the best way for them to back you up to donate, to come to the museum, to advocate to city leaders to...
Can they come to the museum right now?
Oh yeah, can they come to the museum now?
Yes, they can. We're open limited hours, but Thursday, Friday, Saturday from 10 to 5, and Sunday from noon to 5. ordinarily we would be open the entire month of February, but that's not possible. And so yes, and we have you know, restrictions. You have to wear a mask and social distance, and those kinds of things. We can't. We're accustomed to people coming in on buses, and therefore that is just a major challenge because we can't um, bring in the
Right.
busloads of people from New York or whatever, and in many places they can't travel, or the schools are closed. But that would be what would be normal for us, whatever normal may be in this world now. But they can come to the museum, yes. And we
Awesome.
also have a virtual tour, and some virtual tour offerings. So that we have an exhibit, Being Literate, Being Free, where we talk about a person like, well, the learning to read and write being a criminal offense, or teaching someone to read and write being a criminal offense during the days of slavery. Um, or of a person like Thaddeus Stevens, who fought for that he fought to end slavery. He fought for the 13th, 14th, and 15th passage of those. He fought for public education in America. And so that's the Being Literate, Being Free. We have Healing Hearts and Hands, and so forth. So people can request a thematic virtual tour. Um,
Cool.
and we're doing a lot with the schools and so forth along those lines.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much. I'm really excited for when I can go back there, and it's been an honor to talk to you.
A real
I've
pleasure.
Yeah, I
Thank
really
you.
appreciate all the work you do.
Thank you very
Um,
much. Thank you.
and we dropped the link in the chat, and people, obviously, if people have any questions, feel free to reach out after the show, and we'll direct you to the website.
Thank you. Thank
Yeah,
you.
and awesome. Well, thank you so much, Dr. Martin.
Thank you.
Have a good one.
You
Yeah.
too. Take care. Both of you.
Welcome back to Mobtown Live, everyone. I am Abby, and it is my great pleasure tonight to introduce to you the one, the only, Femi the Drifish. Femi is a writer, poet, educator, activist, advocate, licorice-flavored lyricist. I didn't make that up. With the best smile in the business, true. Femi is a British-born Nigerian who has called Baltimore home for a very long time. He's one half of the spoken word duo, The Fifth L. He's the front man for the Out of Water Experience, aka OWX, and also does his own solo stuff. And many young people in the city know Femi as Mr. Fish, which is one of my favorites. But Femi, we are so pumped to have you on the show. Thanks for coming on Mobtown Live. And you ready to hit it?
I'm ready to hit it. Let's do it.
Let's do this thing.
Got my man Maurice in the back. He's the engineer and the musician. Yeah. I am ready. Are you ready? Let me know if you guys can hear me.
Sounds good. Sounds good.
The music too now?
Got it.
All right, cool. All right, this is called Black Magic. I'm just gonna flip it. I'm spitting rhymes, spitting poems, and we're gonna do it like that. It's Omnia on the vocals. Chuck on the scratch, and the entire OWX on the track. All right, check it out now. I be the wicked man, witch doctor, boogeyman, spellbinder, miracle worker, curse to haunt your spirit flow like a surfer. Ride a wave like a rodeo in stereo. My ego is mojo, volcano, beyond lit, inferno. Fluid like I'm cursive, writing with a purpose. I'm merciless with verses. Thanos, the wordsmith, your freestyle's the worst, kid. I want reimbursement, reparations to the person that heard it, they deserve it. Black magic is gorgeous, we shining remorseless, sip moonshine on porches. Sith lords adore this Jedi. Well, forces enforces guitar riffs that travel the furthest with cosmic awareness. I rest with my pelvis. This ain't no Elvis, it's voodoo of Hendrix. Aliens in spaceships, solar eclipses. Come to bear witness. I'm gifted and twisted like derelict spirits. It's the it's magic. The voodoo that you do is magic. The voodoo that you do is magic. There's truth in my sorcery and spells that I'm casting, enchanting and lasting like spiritual fasting. Act like I'm rapping, but really so tapping. Watch reruns on TV, so tell me what's happening. We outcasts and misfits, black arts committed, Black Fist Olympics, psychokinetic. Move crowds, keep them lifted, euphoric, holistic. You think I'm religious, but just can't get with it. I'm sort of a cynic for all kinds of reasons. Life shows no limits. We purging our demons. These rhymes I'm unleashing, our cage birds still singing. Every single glass ceiling. All right, here we go. Bring the hook back. Voodoo that you do is magic. The voodoo that you do is magic. The voodoo that you do is magic. The voodoo that you do, yeah. The voodoo is one of OWX's favorite joints to play live. We didn't play it all in 2015, 2020 makes me sad. So I'm happy to be able to perform this today and a few other joints, poems, and songs. But yeah. Shout out to the OWX band. Hope everyone out there is feeling good. Was that clear? Could everyone hear me?
Oh, we heard you and we loved it.
All
Coming
right,
in
thank you.
fine.
Thank you very much. Cool. All right, so I'm going to go into this next piece. I don't have so much time, so I'm trying to utilize all these moments to just perform some of these songs and some of these poems, since I have those opportunities anymore. There's no more stages for bands to just rock out anymore. OWX is a hip-hop alternative rock band. We just make a lot of noise, and I say a whole bunch of stuff that I write, and we hope that people can hear us and enjoy us. This next piece is called Moth, M-O-T-H. Inspired by interaction I had with my son, actually an interaction my son had with my sister, but I observed it and it made me write this piece. I'm not going to go through the whole story because I'm going to eat up time, but I hope you hear it. Hope you feel it. Yeah, represent lovely. Let's go, Maurice. Check. Consider me disfigured and deformed. I'm a moth who only receives love. My wings beat hard for warmth. I was taught if you can't glide in daylight with the butterflies and soar, then you're gonna be ignored, like it's a sin to be born. Even though we all want to be cared for and adored, being a misfit separates the unique from the norm. Beauty versus ugly, a synonym for the rich versus poor. Black versus white, peace versus war. Opposing force declare you less if you don't have more. Vanity believing, being appealing determines who's superior. When we're all the same at the core. Icarus too close to the sun, only to get scorched. Only to get scorched. So what is beauty if it's only a disguise? What's the ugly truth against pretty lies? I'm but a moth to a flame, trying to catch your eye, only to burn up in the sky. My metamorphosis caused me to emerge from this cocoon. I'm not worthy of this chrysalis, I was born into gloom. Humanity is merciless when your appearance is assumed, only the blind can see your soul. And reveal the real you exposing the nude. Cause how fly you are is really determined by your mood. Magazines advertise beauty as a tool, pushing products to be consumed, brainwashing you like shampoo. When competed with stage props, how you lose it being you. Cause even if you win, your self-esteem is doomed. Force feeding you a skewed view of what is beautiful. And we believe in it, even when we know it's not true. It's not true. It's not true. So what is beauty if it's only a disguise? What's the ugly truth against pretty lies? I'm but a moth to a flame, trying to catch your eye, only to burn up in the sky. Them say God don't make ugly, so don't you worry. Sonya Renee's so lovely, your body's not an apology. So never say you're sorry when beauty is only in the eye of the beholder. Judge a book by its cover. No wonder ignorance is bliss when knowledge is taboo. What if no one ever considered you beautiful because you're a moth plain and simple then ridiculed down to the last molecule till there's nothing left of you to scrutinize? Me, I'm an able moth on the rise. Butterflies in my cane. All I want to do is to shine. Even if I go up in flames, crash land a fiery blaze, leaving a permanent burn mark stain of my hideous face. We call that society's disgrace. And I still say, I don't need your cliche praise of aesthetics to define me anyway. 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 So, what is beauty if it's only a disguise? What's the ugly truth against pretty lies? I'm but a moth to a flame trying to catch your eye, only to burn up in the sky. I said, what is beauty if it's only a disguise? What's the ugly truth against pretty lies? I'm but a moth to a flame, I'm trying to catch your eye, only to burn up in the sky, in the sky. Yeah. Cool. How much more time do I have so I can figure out what I'm about to do?
We got time.
We got time. Dang,
We
so
got
we got
time.
time. Time to do a 2-day concert. I'm gonna do an acapella real quick, and then I'm gonna close with something I dedicated to Baltimore. Let's see if we can do that. Yeah. So last year I had the opportunity. It's like when you rap or you're a poet or a lyricist, you put out music, and then while you're putting out music and hopefully people start to enjoy you, you get excited when you're invited to feature on someone else's project. These lyrics I'm about to share with you a cappella. Last year, a Baltimore MC by the name of St. Mont put out an album, really dope album, and I had the opportunity of being able to be featured on one of his songs called Heart and Soul. Really, really dope song. The brother's name is St. Mont. You can check him out anywhere you can find him. He's all over everywhere that you can buy music or download music or stream music. So yeah, check him out. So I'm just gonna share this verse because it's just one of the verses that I write, and I write to perform. That's just my thing. I love performing. I love being on stage. I love showing off. I like venting. I like purging. So all those things come together. It's about me being on stage and just having a good time, but at the same time, just getting to release in a different way. So this piece I don't get to perform because it's on someone else's album. It's not part of my music with my band. So I just wanted to share these lyrics, and hopefully you'll feel me. Been there, done that. Came back with nothing but scraps. Freedom within my art, trapped in the money that I lack. No pain, no gain, still leaving me insane. All I've gained is the strain from the monkey on my back. My heart poured on a track. I'm a coal train that crashed with a sax, playing jazz, sing the blues to pay for gas. Going nowhere fast, try to outrun my past, get in cash. Just look at me, no ski mask. I gotta work this craft, can't seem to get enough. Doing this for the love, still have to feed my son. All these emotions, can't even trust my gut. We out here chasing dreams, sleepwalking with a strut. I'm barely existing, fighting this system. Rebel until I fall, yeah, I'm resisting. My soul been battered and bruised from bad decisions. I hope these scars or wounds provide me some wisdom. Yeah. Cool. Do I have time for one more?
Yes, absolutely. One more.
All right, this is a band joint. I wrote this, produced by Pale Face Hotness, my guitarist, Nick Taylor, produced this for me. This is our Baltimore anthem song. Figure, I'm on Mobtown live, show. So I figure I rep Baltimore to the fullest. So this piece is called Be More. Yeah. Check. This is Baltimore, the most underrated north-south city. Pretty gritty, boarded up with a whole lot of possibilities. Wasn't born here, yet proud to call this place my home. A new test-born immigrant with nowhere else to go. This is Be More, be beautiful like our heart's desire. We shine as sunrise, single moms be tired. Raising children to survivors with charms that light up. Corruption and prejudice was the real reason for the riots. This is Birdland, home run calls. 2 rings, Raven's Claw. Be Gaddy, Dawson family, Freddie Gray, tears fall. Beyond the block, save a dope boy before heaven calls. Off the corner, half a half. Chicken box with hot sauce. With the club bounce, got our own sound with gold fronts and a big smile. Where wound works right now. I see you around downtown if you call this Baltimore murder land. I guarantee T. You don't love the city. I'm bona fide to say Baltimore with a T. Baltimore. To inspire, we be more than the wire. Raising children into survivors with charms inside. I represent Baltimore. To inspire, we be more than the wire. Raising children into survivors with charms inside. I represent Baltimore. Yeah. West side, east side, south side, north side. This the city of hard luck. Squeegee boys out here just trying to make a buck. Ceasefire just wants all the violence to stop. While politics serves only the cream of the crop, rarely benefits us. 12 o'clock boys wheelies pop. Cops in the beat like Baltimore hip hop. Lost boys forgotten in the back of lockup. Charm City is rough, like heroin addicts in love. Methadone nodding off at Lexington Marcus auction block. As corny as this sounds, still just say no to drugs. Use all that you have to fight the hate with your love. Yes to more hugs, club music's a paradox. We dance with our hearts, this where 300 men march. Like this is Sparta, we leave a mark. Footprints in the dark, we talk the talk. Dougie Doug, Baltimore versus y'all whores. Crabs in the barrel is not a metaphor meant for us, Baltimore. To inspire, we be more than the wire. Raising children into survivors with charms inside. I represent Baltimore. To inspire, we be more than the wire. Raising children into survivors with charms inside. I'm talking about. That's my homegirl Abs right there. I wonder if she's listening. All right, this is where y'all home sing along with me. Baltimore. To inspire, we be more than the wire. Raising children into survivors with charms inside. I represent Baltimore. To inspire, we be more than the wire. Raising children into survivors with charms inside. I represent Baltimore. Peace, y'all. Shout out to my engineer and my keyboardist, Maurice. Can you see him? He's over there he's under my arms. See them arms? This is my arms, and he's under it. It's my man Maurice, Stinky Face music producer, engineer, and he's the reason why I think I sound so good right now because we ran this through his board. So yeah, shout out to Mobtown. Thank you, Mobtown Live. Thank you very much for having me and giving me opportunity.
Sorry, we threw off your whole thing. Keep going.
Oh, I was just shouting out and just make sure I was giving them my shout outs, but just want to make sure the person that made it possible for me to communicate with the audience today was definitely given his acknowledgement. So Maurice Carroll is my keyboardist, one of my best friends, also one of my producers, and also one of my bandmates. And anything else I'm missing? Nope. And I probably owe him money.
Well, thank you so much for coming on, Femi. This is wonderful.
Thank you very much for having me.
All right, we'll catch you soon. All of your information should be in the chat.
Cool.
For the people.
For the people.
Yeah.
Well, thank you very much for having me.
Take care.
Not enough, sneaky, but I'm feeling solid. Never touch no other stuff. No one can see me, nobody got a hunch that I had 2 Jaggers for lunch. Bottoms up, kicky, yeah, I feel another coming over, coming up. Living seems so easy when I hit the weekend. Saturday is greasy, Sunday I'm in pieces. Living seems so easy, think about it weekly. Monday I'll be weeping, Friday.
Hello, everyone, and we're back. Oh, it's terrible watching myself in this thing. All right, so that was Femi the Drifish. That's exciting stuff. Looks good in a top hat. I'm supposed to tell you that there is a cover for this. If you can afford it, you should pay it. We suggest $10. You can pay that at Mobtown-Live on Venmo. We'll take care of you. And we the most of that music or that money goes to the artists. We believe in paying artists. Also, like and subscribe on this channel on YouTube. That way you will be alerted when we go live, and you can watch all the shenanigans that we get up to. So it falls to me now to do a segment that I think the staff of Mobtown Live give to me out of pity and or a sense of like let him do his thing. I'm gonna do my thing, but I actually thought about it, and I was on social media this week, and as I was filled with self-hatred, and it made me more and more frustrated, more and more angry, and I sat down and thought to myself, why, Michael? Why are you so frustrated with this? And it occurred to me that social media posturing, right, actually keeps a lot of us from learning or growing or being able to engage in some sincere curiosity about a subject, right? So, for example, right, we pop off about a lot of things that we don't understand. I was reading the other day about sort of some of the Trumpers who, hold to the Constitution and did not believe that any one person could read the Constitution because it must be a gigantic document if it runs the United States, when in fact it's 30 or 40 pages. Like wild ignorance like this. And that the kernel of that sort of belief system is that you have to put your allegiance on something, and then you're just behind it no matter what. There's not an allowance for asking questions or learning or growing. And while that is crazy on the right, it's also happening a little bit on the left. I see often some of my liberal friends talking, and some subject comes up in the news, and they've read an article in the New York Times, and now they're experts on whatever, the Supreme Court. They have a staunch opinion, and I know that 2 weeks ago they knew nothing about the subject at all, and now they're convinced that this is the most important thing in the world, and that they need to present themselves as thoroughly versed in it, which is unnecessary and uncool. Lots of us don't know about a lot of shit, and it should be okay, even on the internet, to admit ignorance and learn a little bit. This is a long lead in to sort of a book recommendation, or several books. That unnecessary sense of having to pretend that you've always known something, we got to get away from. And then I thought further, and I thought, what is actually happening in the way that people consume information, and why is this occurring, right? And it struck me that a lot of the things that we consume are narrowly topical and hyper-focused, right? You listen to a podcast, it's about one person from history, or you read a book. This includes a lot of the sort of fantastic anti-racist literature that's out there now that is about one thing, and it hones in on it, and it gives you all sorts of wild information about a chunk of American history. What it doesn't do is give you any kind of map that allows you to investigate the whole thing and sort of orient yourself in a way that would make any sense. It's like a lot of times, and I'm stealing this metaphor from a professor of mine from the day. I'll be like my jacket that I put on for this. It's like someone gave you a little piece of a map that had a dot on it that said you are here. And that means nothing, right? You decide where you are, or you know where you are based on a collection of information. You orient yourself based on other things. So I thought that it might be useful to talk about how one could orient yourself in American history, so that, for example, when you read something about the Great Migration, or about racism, or any sort of particular era, you know where that stands, and you can kind of look around. I got a couple of recommendations, and they sort of all move towards a fundamental and new recommendation. The first one is this: Howard Zinn, A People's History of the United States, 1492 to present. This is a wonderful book. It is also like a straight up pinko book in the best sense, very liberal. It takes the sort of perspective of looking at whoever the story hasn't been told about, right? And that's good. Hachi just asked if there was an America in 1492. Good Lord.
Don't at me like that.
Yeah, I'm atting you, bro. Anyway, it's a wonderful book. The problem is that it tells you the story that isn't told, and we keep telling that story so much that we now don't have a perspective on the overarching thing. So My next recommendation, if you really want to get into it, is this. Not just this book, it's The Glorious Cause. It's about the Revolutionary Era by Robert Middlecoff, but this is part of the Oxford History of America, and there are like 12 of these now. It's too much, but it is old school history in the good sense, right? It's not just, it's not narrowly topical. It tries to talk about all of the political and social dynamics and taxes and everything going on. It's wonderful. You need some time for it. Next. This is not a history book, but it is a very important document. And I guarantee that like only 10% of the people watching this have actually read it. The Constitution of the United States, but particular, this book, The Penguin Guide to the United States Constitution, edited by Richard Beeman. It's a lovely book, very short on the notes, but the notes are important. Like anything that's unclear in the Constitution because it's some 19th century particular thing that no longer applies, there's a note on it. Right, it helps you understand the basics of the document, where it was coming from. Not a lot of analysis, not a lot of telling you. It does a very good job of highlighting how much the Constitution is about slavery, even though slavery isn't actually mentioned in the Constitution. But it's a really great way. You could read it in a couple days to orient yourself on the history of the development of the ideas that led to where you and I are right now. Finally, and I'm going to end on time, and this is all where I was trying to get, this book, These Truths, by Jill Lepore. Jill Lepore is a wonderful writer. She's a historian from Harvard, and she writes for the New Yorker, which is how I found out about her. And this is the first time, I think, in my experience, and I haven't read all the history books, that a history book about the United States, sort of from the beginning until almost now, it goes up to the beginning of the Trump era, really walked the line between giving you a broad sense of social, political, military history that was deeply informed by all of the racial issues we talk about, class issues and everything that liberal folks have been stewing in, to the exception of learning some like basic facts of like, you know, where am I, who am I, right? She's brilliant and weaves all of those threads together in a narrative that is compelling and sort of passionate, and also allows you to hang your hat on the United States in the sense that it's like, this is, if it's to be a good thing at some point, it's an unfinished story, right? We're not done. We didn't arrive at, this is the greatest nation on earth and now we just need to preserve it. That there's something that we could aspire to in our history and even in our founding documents, but it's on us to get there. Those are my recommendations. Those books, but particularly this one. Boom. These Truths by Jill Lepore. Hachi, where are you at? You're muted, bro.
I have so many questions.
Oh, you can ask questions, but now it's time for us to sort of blather until the show's over.
But
I came in at exactly 8:20.
The questions are the blathering. Don't distract me.
Knock yourself out.
Oh, well, I'm distracted. What are you drinking there, buddy?
That's a martini, Hachi.
Oh, gin or vodka?
Gin. There's no such thing as vodka martini. Yeah.
We stopped doing this show for a while, so we've been through that before. I don't know if the audience has seen us, but yeah.
Yeah,
this is a gin show, or
at
least drinks that are traditionally made with gin should be made with gin.
And we should note that we are blathering here because Sarah can't blather because she's broken.
No, it's because the people want to talk to us.
Oh yeah. So what do we got on the docket, Hachi? What do we have to talk about?
I'm going to show what I'm drinking. This is a drink that Sarah's made me before, and I found it in a can, so I don't have to learn how to make it. And
Corpse Survivor number 10.
I've had 2 of them, and they're lovely. They're from 10th Ward Distilling Company, which I thought made something about New Orleans, but they're from Frederick, and it's lovely. And
you a little fucked up?
I was a little fucked up. We're gonna have. Michael usually orders me pizza, but we don't do that on the internet.
Mm-mm.
Michael, how do you find the time to read when you also spend 4 hours a day on Reddit?
I don't spend any time on Reddit, Hachi. I don't do any of that shit that you do, which is how I find the time to read.
Huh. I actually am legitimately curious though. How much do you read a day? Is it a daily thing? Is it a weekly thing?
It's a daily thing. This is actually a wonderful question. I think that anybody who has a real passion of some kind where you have to work on it, you end up making sacrifices. I watch TV. I don't watch nearly as much TV as I would if I wasn't reading all the time. I don't talk to people as often as most people do. I come on here, I blather. I also read while I'm doing other shit while I'm eating. And I also read for hours on end, right? It's not like I don't dabble. It's not an entertainment thing. It's sort of I got to crunch this because I'm going to die at some point, and I got some questions I need to answer before then. The sense of urgency behind it.
That's interesting. That's not. I read like young adult when I was a kid, but I really haven't since then. It's like all those books that you were just talking about. Well, I guess how much do you read a day? Like just constantly?
During this pandemic, I think I've been able to clock between 4 and 6 hours a day.
You should get like a little ticker.
Well, I go by books read. You know what I mean? I go like, oh, look, I've read this many books this month. That's nice. It's about the quality over quantity, though. It's better to read with attention and care than to just blaze through a bunch of material you don't remember.
Is the Penguin Guide to the Constitution longer than the Constitution? Because that could prove their point.
It is the Constitution with footnotes, essentially. So you could skip the footnotes when you don't need them. It also has some selections from the Federalist Papers, which are lovely and inspiring.
That is pretty cool. I'm going to have to check that out. I have also not read the Constitution, although I have pulled it up on Wikipedia quite a few times.
It's a good read, man. People are always talking about, America's bullshit and everything, and that's true half the time. But most of the Constitution you can take to the bank. I'm very grateful for that document, and often in awe of it that these pretty boy French-speaking guys that were always showing off their calves and had slaves and did this evil, evil shit. I mean, they're just awful in many ways. Not all of them had slaves, but you know what I mean. Managed to accomplish something that questioned the premises of their own lives. It's a strange document. I commend it to you and the people.
Oh, well, thank you.
So what have you been up to, Hachi? What is, I believe there's questions about the world of the internet that we were meant to discuss, such as, God help me, Reddit and GameStop.
Oh, well, okay. I didn't know if we were naturally going to get into it, but it looks like we are.
I asked.
Michael is I don't know if I can say wondering. We were talking earlier about our dear departed friend Sarah, who's probably dead by now. And if we needed to fill time, we could talk about the stock market and GameStop and Elon Musk and nonsense. So I tacked together real quickly some graphics. So let's get the first graphic up here. I think it'll explain it pretty well. So here we have, they locked us up, shut down the economy, and gave us $1,200. What did Americans do? They decided their favorite new video game is fucking with hedge funds. I've never been prouder. So, internet boy here first looked up what a hedge fund actually meant. Because I know what a hedge fund is. It's just, what it meant. Sure. And turns out it means nothing literal anymore. It's like a backwards word. But it's kind of fun, and it's all encompassing, all over Reddit. It's literally all of Reddit thinking that they're winning, which is hilarious. From what I can understand, it's like 2 hedge funds that they're like winning against. But I think now the third time is the charm, and I think I'll remember what a short sell is finally. I don't know, Michael, do you understand the stock market at all?
I mean, I understand what short selling is. You basically place a bet that the stock is going to go down to something. It involves borrowing a stock, selling it, and then you have to buy it back. It's very obnoxious.
Correct.
And it's questionable whether it should be allowed ever in the first place. I don't know enough to really render a judgment on that.
Yeah, a lot of things that are coming to light here. I guess we should transition back to us. I can see us all the time. I've got you like on 16 screens. A lot of the things also like the elite, the Wall Street elite can do, but the public can't. There's like a different way trades happening. I think once you get your 6th Rolex, like you like unlock the higher level of trading. I don't know, that part's very confusing too. I just think the most amazing thing is nobody likes GameStop. No one has ever liked GameStop. They're bad, and they were dying. And now, for some reason, the thing that happened was you can make money off of a dying company, but then apparently they don't actually reap any benefits of their stock going up based on how they're chartered. Um, but it's like bringing out everyone's heartwarming feelings for GameStop, which I've never ever heard of before. The only thing I know that people like about GameStop is occasionally you can get like the full size cutout posters and like take them home, like the 6 foot tall. Michael, have you played video games?
I played the original Mario Brothers and Duck Hunt and like the boxing one on that thing. But that was it. Since then, it's been nothing. Not a game.
So you never like overthrew oligarchs over Duck Hunt?
No. I was 7 or 8, and awesome. And then I moved on to reading books and never looked back, Hachi.
Huh. Well, I think a couple of the people that are doing this are 7. It's unknown if they got their parents' permission before going online, but the comments that they've been posting throughout this have been hilarious. They also have their own shorthand since it's all like stock market stuff. So it's just generally all the posts on the front page of Reddit for the past couple weeks have just been like 6 acronyms in a row, a bunch of dollar signs, and then a bunch of exclamation marks. It's very hard to follow.
Well, let me ask you this question. I actually have an internet question that maybe the people would like to know too. I ignored Reddit as soon as it showed up because I hated it deeply. Right?
Hated it?
And wait, hold on. And then I was listening to the internet via my phone the other day, and so this New York Times person
listening to the internet.
Yeah, podcast. This New York Times person interviewed the Reddit CEO or whatever head douchebag
Alexis
they have.
Ohanian.
Yeah, cool, that guy.
I've met him.
And it was very reasonable. And apparently they were ahead of the curve on dumping Trump and QAnon and all that shit. They actually did the right. What happened?
Well, so
did Reddit become noble?
Well, that's complicated.
Oh,
Before I get into that, I met Alexis Ohanian. One of the only times I've ever been to CVP. I like he did a book talk at Homewood, and then afterwards he was like, "Everyone come get drinks at CVP." So we like went and like hung out with Alexis Ohanian at CVP, and it was fucking awesome.